Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Selden. I'm the president of the Montessori Foundation, which, as you may know, is a relatively small but very international school consulting and parent support organization that's now 32 years old. And this is our weekly webcast for school leaders, especially with people who are involved directly in admissions. And it is co-hosted by my friend, Clint Lausch. And I'll let Clint introduce himself.
Hey everybody. Thanks, Tim. Good to be here with everybody again. Good to see a lot of familiar names and faces. Yeah, my name is Clint Losh. Owner, founder of AIMS, which stands for Admissions Inquiry and Marketing Software, an all-in-one marketing and admission software for schools to finally kind of bridge that gap between marketing and admissions. So, you could find out, hey, what's working on the marketing side that's actually driving enrollment outcomes. And happy to have again everybody on here for another webcast. And today we're discussing a topic that sometimes I feel like a broken record about, which is this concept of your parents have questions. How do you answer them? Now, I'm certainly going to be coming at this, especially from the marketing angle, because so much research can be done without a parent talking to the admissions team or even coming on campus. They can talk with their own friends and family. They can talk in Facebook groups. They can visit your website. There's a lot of research going on. So, how do we answer parent questions, especially if you're not, face to face with them? Face to face is one thing, but how can we answer questions from the marketing perspective? Tim, do you have any thoughts or angle that you come at this with in terms of parents got questions? How do we answer them?
Well, I think the most important thing is what's our goal. So one goal, of
Right.
course, is to get them to actually apply and if they're a right fit for each other to register. But the other thing is when people approach you, they may be approaching you with a kind of almost a skeptical or resentful attitude. And quite often we have families who, on the one hand, love the school, but they don't like the school as an organization. They don't like the board. They don't like the administration because in their minds, this is very, very expensive and they don't understand why. And one of the things we want to do is turn them from customers into stakeholders. And so creating they've got questions. They may or may not be willing to ask the ones that are really important because they may be embarrassed or afraid that you won't like them if they ask the really dirty ones, like, why is this tuition more than $20,000 a year? Or, do you really accept children of color or a child with my child's disabilities, whatever. The bottom line is we want to turn them into partners. And part of that is creating a relationship where they feel that there's transparency, there's trust, there's real conversation, that they see you as a partner in raising their kids. And I think that's part of our goal in responding to their questions.
I think it's a great point, right? It's figuring out, what is the goal based upon the questions that they're asking. Certainly some questions are trickier than others. Let's use, feel free to unmute, show your face. Because again, it's a webcast, different than the webinar. We had a couple, folks that were on for the first time last week, not realizing this was more of a conversational webcast. So feel free to unmute and hop on with us. Whether you want to do that or use the chat box, type in what is your most common question, one or two questions that you feel like you get from all of your parents, on tours, on the phone call. What's the one question you're always answering? And you know what? I'll kick it off here. And I've used this example before, um, but the question, I was helping my daughter's school with their marketing, and they were like, "Yeah, the question we always get from every parent is why should we choose a school that goes to eighth grade when we could choose a competitor, another school that goes all the way up to 12th grade?" Right. So you really need to be prepared to answer that. And I see a couple questions come in here. These are good ones. So Stacy, you had said, um, what does my money go to? There we go. That's a direct one. Why do teachers need so much professional development? That's interesting. That's an interesting question. How do students, so Amanda, how do students transition to high school?
Mhm.
Great one. That's such a good one. I've talked with so many schools, especially the ones that like go up to eighth grade, where that's the big question. How prepared are they for high school? Tim, how long have your teachers been with you? What is their background? What is your turnover like?
Will
Good
my
one.
child get into a highly competitive school, whether it's college or high school, if I send my child to your school? So
Any other ones? These are really good ones.
they want to know, among other things, what do you have to offer? What are your facilities and what would it be like to be here? But the big thing they always want to know is, you know, are the bullies here? Your kids, get into good schools? Do they succeed? You know, is this a place where I can imagine my child coming?
Now, the next question is, how do we answer these? So, are these questions you're typically answering face to face on tours or over the phone?
In my experience, they're probably getting these questions from every possible source, on the
Yeah.
spot, in a tour, in an admissions interview, by email, whatever. But the other thing is a lot of parents just won't ask the questions that are really on their mind.
Yeah.
And they're there, but they don't bring it up until it's really a problem.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was headed, at least where my mind goes, the marketing side of this, which is let's talk about these. So, Tim, I think you bring up an amazing point, which is, there's some that are going to ask that, right? So, Amanda, you had said, in-person visits, great. Some are going to ask them to do in-person visits. There's a good chance there's many families that aren't asking it, but they're thinking it. How do we answer the questions that they're thinking about? And so that's where let me
Well, obviously the
share.
answer is you've got to get them to acknowledge that these are questions, or you have to ask them a question that elicits things like that. For example, many of the parents that we're probably seeing are either approaching us when their children are very, very small and they're trying to deal with a problem of needing childcare and stimulation for their young child, a good start. But the other is many of us are dealing with parents who have no background in private schools. And I think increasingly we're seeing that kind of thing. So you've got to try to figure out what brings them to you. What are they trying to run away from? What's turned them off or makes them anxious about going elsewhere, whether it's the home daycare model or a church-based or synagogue-based preschool, or some chain of preschools, or a private school versus a public or a charter school. There's normally something that is driving them, and they may not even really have thought about it. And why does anyone spend the equivalent of what it costs to buy a car to send their little kid to school or their older kid to school? And whether it's a really low end car or a high end car, depends on your school, but you're dealing with a major, major expense to go to a private school normally. Now, you may be in a state where there's financial scholarships available. It could be that you're offering financial aid that makes for a more diverse population, but we are normally talking about something that costs between $15,000 and $40,000, depending on where you're located, a year.
Tim, can you allow me to share my screen?
Of course. I have to adjust my camera. You can see my dog sitting on my lap. Hold on. There you go.
All right, thank you, sir. All righty. Again, this is where sometimes I feel like the old broken record because I do share this a lot, but it's such an important concept when we're thinking about answering the questions going on in parents' minds, right? So I always kind of tie it back to the family journey, the journey they take to just get to campus, right? And obviously apply, enroll, they have their experience there, but just getting to campus, right? So they have to become aware that you exist. How do they become aware that you exist? Could be just driving by the school, talking with friends and family. They see an ad, right? There's tons of different ways that they can become aware. But at some point, they become aware. The moment they become aware, the questions are going to begin. The questions are beginning in their mind. Is this right for me? Should I choose a Montessori school? Should I choose another type of a Waldorf school? Should I choose a more traditional school, if you will? I say quote unquote traditional school. Should I choose a public school? Right? Should I homeschool? Right? All these questions are going to happen. And then they're going to start looking at tuition, right? Okay, this tuition is 20,000. This is 17. This is 9. This is free, right? So, and then thinking about the journey, and this we won't talk a whole lot about this today, but certainly, once they become aware you exist, they'll start searching you, finding, looking where you're at on the map. And let me give you thinking about maps. I'll give you an example of a school I work with in Canada, and one of their most common questions was, "Can I get to your school, transportation wise? How do I get to your school?" Because they're in Toronto, and if they have to get across the bridge, I don't know how Toronto necessarily works geographically, but that was a big question they had to answer. And that was actually a thing that we helped them with their advertising, which is we were highlighting their transportation, saying like, hey, even if you're in this part of the city, we'll take care of your transportation. So they knew that that was a big question going on in parents' minds. So getting back to the journey, right? They're going to go to Google or other search engines. They're going to search for private schools near me, Montessori schools near me. What are the best schools, best high schools, best middle schools? And then this is where the questions really start happening in their mind. I'll call this the reputation stage, but reputation, I don't want to think about reputation as just looking at your reviews. They're going to start going to your website. They're going to start going to your social media. They will read reviews. They'll go talk with friends and family, right? This is where they're going to start asking themselves, is this right for me? Will this prepare my child for high school? How are these teachers compared to the other teachers, right? Without pulling it up, using the survey from Niche, we know that over 60% of families are looking at 3 to 5 schools. So therefore, they've got questions they need answered. So really what I'm here to say is, it's our job to answer these questions even before they come on campus, right? So you'll see here ZMOT. ZMOT stands for zero moment of truth. That's a term Google has coined that says after doing all of this research, this is the moment they're going to decide whether they even want to come on campus. So while you're still probably going to get these questions directly, face to face on a campus visit, they're asking these questions to themselves, to friends and family beforehand. So, and then here's another really crazy statistic. Let me see where it is in my whole slide deck here. Here it is. This came from HubSpot. Interesting statistic. 70% of a prospective parent's mind is made up before the first interaction with somebody. So before they come for that campus tour where they can ask that question, their mind is kind of made up already based upon what they've already learned, what friends and family have said, what they've researched, what the reviews say, all of these pieces to the puzzle. So that's where, I really say we need to become obsessed with what your parents are thinking. So going back to what everybody put in the chat early on, which was like, here are the most common questions. What I would say is we want to create a messaging framework and answer those questions in your advertising. Use that, you answer your questions in your content, in the emails that you send. Like one of my favorite emails to send to prospective parents, like when maybe they register for a tour or they just come on and they fill out a contact form, is an FAQ email. No better way to answer questions than literally say, here's an FAQ email, or just have an FAQ section on your website, on your admissions page, right? What's transportation like? What are the background of your teachers? So literally all the questions that you were putting in the chat, they could be throughout your website, um, in an FAQ section. So I can dive more into this, whether we want to build like I talk about building a messaging framework about how we answer these on the website. We can dive into that. But is anybody doing that already? Would love to get the conversation going about, based upon the questions, are you creating content? So this is where I'm going with it, is if we need to answer these questions before they even come on campus, how do we do that? Well, one, we have to know what the questions are, which many of you likely know. Two, how do we answer them ahead of time? Well, that's going to be um, on your website, on social media, on all the different channels that families are engaging with you. So let me stop sharing real quick. Maybe we can open it up. Is anybody doing this already with their content? Is anybody creating content either in a blog or answering questions? Or thinking about answering questions like this in your content?
Hey everyone, I'm Shannon.
Hey, Shannon, good to have you on. I didn't see you hop on here.
Yeah, I was a little late. I'm sorry. We do have the frequently asked questions on our website in the admissions section. But one of the things that we did, we've just started doing ads with Ames marketing with Clint's help, and it's been going really well for us. But one of the things that we did in order to frame those ads was we surveyed our existing students and families and talked to them about what were some of the important things they were considering before they got to us. And then we used their answers to kind of hone in on what our messaging would be to prospective families. For example, we're an all-girls school and we have a beautiful arts program. So many of the parents talked about how vibrant the program was, how impressed they were by our arts offerings. So one of our ads was, do you want your daughter to shine, or, is it time for you to shine, or something like that. And then
Yeah.
we used images of our students in various arts kind of environments. And I noticed there was a really nice engagement there. The other thing was, we do a lot of service here. So one of them was, find your voice, find your passion, that sort of thing. That came directly from the survey responses that we got,
Love
that
it.
kind of messaging. So I don't know if that's helpful.
That's Shannon. Thanks for hopping in. I think that is probably one of the best ways to get this information is just to ask, right? Ask in a survey. Take those answers and let that frame your messaging. And like you did great with your campaigns, right? Which is put it in your ad campaigns. Hey, are you looking for a school that, right? That's a great way to start any ad, right? Are you looking for a school that has amazing teachers, right? Has a great community.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. When you
So
mentioned findability, we had that same issue. How do I get there? And I could see where parents are, those very straightforward. Well, how is this going to impact my day, my routine from the parent's perspective? So that transportation was very important. Messaging around transportation was important, and then trying to anticipate what those questions would be. Of course, costs, the schedule, what happens if, those kinds of things. So that was a whole rabbit hole too.
awesome. And I see a couple messages here in chat. Ali said you have a Q&A section. That's just a great, easy thing to do. Anybody can do very quickly, put on their website. Anybody else doing surveys? So I think that's a great thing to do. I know, Tim, you and I have been talking about that. I'll even share maybe a little bit about how we plan on utilizing surveys inside of our software, which is really cool using AI. But I'll get into that here in a second. Anybody else doing surveys?
Stacy, they do
Yeah.
surveys at her school. A lot of schools do, but they often don't do it for marketing. They do it to just see how do the current families feel about their experience in the school, which is great. We all need to do that. But the idea of focus groups and recording it and analyzing it, trying to find out, like as Stacy was or Shannon was talking about, getting parents to talk about what drew them to the school, to try to tease out what are they running away from, or what about your school particularly appeals to a particular kind of parent, so you can put a spotlight on it. Alan wants to know what questions should you ask. Alan, in all candor, I think there's no harm in doing whatever you want, like what brought you to the school, or here's a list of 10 things that people tell us. Check all that apply to you. But I particularly like open-ended things where parents are in a room with other parents and you're recording it, and they know you're recording it. And you just try to get a conversation going, like what we're doing here. What is it that brought you to our school? What is it that you remember from your own years in school as a student that you most wanted to ensure that your children had? Or what was it you most wanted to avoid about the way schools are today, or about what you experienced in school? You're really just trying to tease out, what do you love about our school? I
think those are great. I was gonna just follow up with that and say, yeah, does anybody have any other questions that they'd like to ask in a survey? Like, what's your favorite question to ask in a survey that you feel like you get a great response from? And I think allowing open-ended is important, like Tim suggested, because sometimes you can be really surprised about answers that you never expected to get. Um, Whether that's live in person, or even if it's just your standard, hey, send an email, fill out this survey, when you get a chance type of thing. But I love those questions that Tim had. Anybody else have any other questions that they love asking on surveys?
One of the things that we did to guide our survey questions was we took a look at our mission and our core values. We wanted to try to get a gauge on what is it about our mission and core values that are appealing to parents. Because we made an assumption that if they connected to it and were willing to come here, and we're filling out our survey, they're happy with it. So we wanted to learn, first off, what was it that they felt was important, and then why, try to get, and we did have a lot of open-ended, space for open-ended responses. And it was interesting because some of the things that I really expected that people would be responding to, they didn't really seem to hone in on. But then other things, which I just kind of threw in there because it certainly was part of it, but I didn't really have much of an expectation. People felt very strongly about. It's interesting.
What was something you found most surprising?
I thought it was surprising that parents weren't as blown away by how long we've been around and
Mm.
what our traditions here really are about. And I obviously I noted that the folks that did graduate from here, or who had family members who graduated from here, were very impressed and excited by the traditions, but the traditions really meant nothing to people who weren't already part of the school. And it's funny because we're known for a lot of traditions, and we always play up a lot of these things on social media. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I just thought that um, people who weren't already engaged with us might be coming to us because they value that. We've been around for so long, we have these longstanding traditions. But that's not what I found.
That's so interesting because I think that is such a core sell, or a lot of schools feel that's a core selling point that they want to put kind of all over, right? Hey, we've been around for 100 years or
Mhm.
75 years, and we have this tradition that's so. And that's I think that's probably a sign of kind of changing times, right? In terms of what
Oh,
families are looking for. And then what did you find? Maybe you were surprised about that they were looking for. Like, what was the thing that they when you found out, like, oh, this is what we were actually. This is what why we enrolled.
it was interesting because, it wasn't surprising at all that they were coming to us for academic excellence. Of course, we're a school, right? So I think any parent wants that. But in another part of the survey, they were given an opportunity to articulate it a little bit differently. And by and large, most parents said something to the effect of, I want my daughter to reach her full potential. I
Mhm.
want my daughter, I want my daughter. So then I tried to change the messaging a little bit for prospective families, kind of like, we meet you where you are and take you further than you imagine. Something along those lines to try to tap into that potential, and our ability to help, um, envision, inspire the potential of these prospective students. I don't know. For some reason, I think that that's really been working for us. But I
Love that.
didn't, I wasn't planning to go in that direction, but that's kind of what we're doing now.
And that's great though, because those are things you learn, you adapt,
Hmm.
without doing the survey, right? Maybe you don't,
Right.
and asking those questions, you don't know.
A hundred
Um,
percent.
and look, again, if anybody's heard this story before, I apologize, but there was a school I was working with in Delaware, the same exact scenario where they were competing with a lot of public schools, and they thought going into it that, for their advertising, that their messaging was going to be about their outdoor classrooms and their curriculum. Like that was going to be the selling point because it was different than the public schools, and that's what families wanted. They did a survey, and what did they find? Yeah, that was nice, but that wasn't the selling point. The selling point was the community, the safety, that type, the joy, the kindness, that type of messaging completely changed their advertising. They got 3 times the amount of results from their advertising by just switching over to that sort of messaging. From hey, look at how great our outdoor classrooms are, to are you looking for a school that is a uh, caring, joyful community, and using language like that. So surveys, I think that's great. What else? What else are folks doing here to either find the answers to those questions or answering those questions in their marketing? Anybody doing that with a blog? Anybody blogging here? Well, let me ask this real quick. So it doesn't seem like we have any bloggers on here. We can talk about blogging here in a second. But for those that are doing surveys or considering doing surveys, has anybody utilized ChatGPT or any of these other AI platforms to analyze those results and help you develop messaging based upon those results?
That is something that I would love to do, and I have not done that. That sounds like, oh, something we ought to be doing.
Yeah, it can help, certainly depending upon how many, right? To help sift through all of that content. Hey, give me the top 3 reasons why families are choosing us. Develop a persona, develop 5 marketing messages um, that I should utilize based upon, like, you can keep going on and on. But yeah, Shannon. So for anybody here, Shannon, anybody else is doing a survey, when you have those survey answers, so let's just say they're in some sort of Excel file or CSV file, Google Sheet, you can upload that right into ChatGPT or any other AI program, and then you can analyze that data and then start asking questions about that data. You know, hey, I'm gonna run an advertising campaign based upon this survey data. What should my messaging be? Okay, write my ads, write 3 articles based upon this topic that families are looking for. So yeah, you had said ChatGPT for writing posts, absolutely. But yeah, for analyzing data, it's great. It is really great for, you can upload that data in or just copy and paste it and to start asking questions to develop that. I will say, so shameless plug on my end, Shannon, this is something you'll be interested in since you're using our platform. Uh, we have a feature now where imagine you are asking families through a survey or just through a form, like you're collecting their information. And let's say you ask a couple questions, like what's the number one thing you're looking for in a school, right? Um, we have an automation or a workflow now that we're putting in that attached to the contact record when they come in, it's automatically going to build the messaging for that family based upon the answers that they're giving you in that form. And let's say they fill out multiple forms throughout. Maybe they register for an open house, a tour, you get their information. Any information you put in there, it's like building this messaging profile for that particular family. So when you go in there, you can analyze it. So amazing things you can do with AI. We're just harnessing it. So, and I think that's where I think we're headed here with, when you think about automations and how do we get this information, one, you just have to gather it. And then when you gather it, what do we do with it? And that's where, yeah, putting that information on your website, creating blog posts around that, answering questions in your content, answering questions in social media. I know there were some questions here about like, how long have your teachers been with you? Why do teachers need professional development? I remember looking at survey data about why families choose a school and why they stay at a school. And the top 2 of the 3 to 4 reasons had to do with teachers. So, and that probably goes for everybody, right? Which is your teachers are so important. So how do we show that, right? How do we show what our teachers are doing, how much professional development they're getting, why they get it? That also goes into why invest. Why does tuition cost what it does? It can be from facilities to, we invest in our teachers, right? What else? So when I say what else, how else do we think we can communicate with families answering their questions? Again, I think about it from a content perspective because we know how much research families are doing before ever talking with you. Any other strategies that you have found works really well to help to either help answer parent questions or develop content based upon their questions?
Another way of thinking of this is not just responding to questions, but messaging. In other words,
Yeah.
who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to get across? And what do you believe will get their attention? One of the things you and I have been working on, I know you're planning to get to this in a few minutes anyway, is the idea of trying to elicit from parents enough information about what a wide range of them think and what led them to the school and what they appreciate about it, and try to come up with a portrait of your ideal family, the ones who love you the most and are the most supportive, and a portrait of the families who, from your end, have proven to be problematic. Families that either are oppositional or disengaged or disruptive in some way, shape, or form. What you want, obviously, are families that are going to love you for who you are. I mean, that's really all you can do. So you want to focus on why do some people love you and how can you help people to recognize that's who you are, and how do you get their attention, because everyone's trying to get their attention. And what we're doing a lot is working with schools to either help them to do it or to serve as an outside source of this process, to get people to talk to us about what do they love about the school without any goal of trying to get them to say things that they don't believe. We want them to tell the truth. And we get hours and hours and hours and hours of video recording. And with their permission, we have all that transcribed. We feed it all into AI and ask AI questions like, what does this all tell you? What does it suggest about our ideal family, the ones who seem to be the most supportive? How could we message to those people? We come up with an entire written marketing plan for schools that way that is customized for them, but it's based on a blend of things like, as Shannon described, what is your mission? How do you think of yourselves? What are your values? What do you think you're selling to the world? And talking to as many of your stakeholders, parents, teachers, current students, alumni. What do you most remember and love about that school? Or what led you to the school? Or if you're thinking about leaving, what is it that's leading you to think about leaving? So those are really tough questions that most people are not willing to tell the school, but they may be willing to tell outsiders. People tell me all the time that they don't want to answer surveys because they're afraid that the school's going to figure out who did this, and they don't want any trouble. They want to, if they're going to leave, they want to leave usually very quietly, no drama. They don't want you doing anything to upset their child. So they don't want, unless they really get angry, the average parent will avoid conflict and they just leave quietly in the middle of the night.
I'm going to share a couple things about messaging frameworks.
That's one of the things we develop is customized plans of how do you communicate to this kind of parent? Give me examples of the problem, agitate, solution, marketing plan. How do you communicate to these people?
Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to share a couple things with you. I'm going to share the screen. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. What did I do? So this is, I kind of like this. This is a fun exercise to do. So Tim, I think exactly what you said about, okay, when we know the questions, right? When we know the things that we need to start messaging about, how do we build that messaging framework? I think here's a really cool strategy to use, no matter what. This could be for social media, advertising, your website. This 3-part framework works really, really well. So the first step is, and we'll put the frowny face, and I use the frowny face to show, okay, this is a family who's in the research phase. They're trying to find the best school for their family, and they've got questions that need answering. Then at the other end here of our bridge, we've got the happy family. They've achieved what they wanted, or they've gotten what they've paid for, essentially. So on the left-hand side, and this is just a good exercise, is write this, put this on a piece of paper and just list all those questions, right? What are the questions that you're always answering? From why do my teachers need so much professional development? Why does tuition cost so much? Should I choose the K-8 versus K-12 school? Should I do co-ed versus all girls? Will my child be prepared for high school, right? List them all, right? And at the other end, you have your portrait of a graduate. So this is what Tim was saying, which is you have these statements that say, when they leave our school, here's what they're going to be able to do. They're going to be prepared for high school. They're going to be prepared for college. They're going to be on the track to become an entrepreneur. They're going to be a leader. They're going to be respectful, right? They're going to be technologically advanced, with using the technology of the future, right? So list all of those. And then For each one of those, pick one, right? It's, let's say, the question is, will my child be prepared for high school? And then you might have your portrait of a graduate statement saying like how well they do at high school. And then we want to create that bridge between what they're looking for and what they get. And this is the how we do it, right? So what are those 3 to 4 things that are part of your school or part of your community or part of your curriculum that allow you to get from, they've got this question that they need answering to they're at your school, they've left your school, and now they're able to do what they were looking for. So what is it that unique about your school and about your programmatic features that allows them to get to that portrait of a graduate? Is it your campus? Is it the accreditation? Is it, if your kids, we teach our kids to be respectful, we allow them kids to be kids. And to do that, we have 2 recesses. Like, these are things that my daughter's school said. We have these amazing teachers. Well, what does amazing teachers mean? We give them all this training and how great they are, student to teacher ratio, all those things. So that's a really great framework where you can't go wrong, which is, hey, are you looking for a school that is going to prepare your child for high school, for college, right? That's your question. And at our school, our students go to college and they receive, $1 million in scholarships, right? And here's how we get them prepared for college. Each one gets a one-on-one mentor. They have these types of classes. Here's what we teach. So you see how you can start building that framework for everything, right? It's K-8 versus K-12. Are you trying to figure out what's best? Well, students that graduate from our school that goes up to 8th grade, here's what they're able to do in high school, and then here's how we do it, right? So you pick each one of those and you build that framework. And just to show you, and I'll give you some examples here in a second, but any questions on that? Is that helpful to see that? Let me show you some other ideas in terms of messaging. I may have shared this before, but like, let's say you're a school that goes up to 8th grade and you're surrounded by schools that go up to 12th grade. Here's a school that did a really nice job where they built what's called like a lead magnet, or how I like to call them inquiry magnets, which are downloadable guides. So they created one, and the 8 versus K-12, which provides the greatest outcome. Like, imagine this was your school and this is the question you're answering all the time on your tours. This is a great way to answer it. You get their contact information so you can follow up with them. You ask the question here, it's most important for my child to become an independent thinker, receive personalized learning experience. So now when they answer a question like that, you can actually, using software like ours, you can automate the back end of that and develop messaging framework for them. You obviously have it for your own records if they come on tour. Hey, I hear, from the form you filled out, you're looking for a personalized learning experience. Let me show you exactly how we do that. Right, here's one, that we put together, which is a parent guide, which is a parent's guide to choosing the right school. So here's all the options you have. You have charter, you have public, you have private, you have Montessori, right? Here's why you might want to choose us. So it's another downloadable, we call it a parent's guide. So it's going to help them, learn about local options, choose the one that works best. So these downloadable guides can be another great mechanism to answer questions while strategically getting their contact information so you can follow up with them. Shannon, you had asked, does this form live on the website or is it sent via email marketing? How would you distribute the parent guide? Yeah. So what you do is, so let me show you an example. We'll use this school as an example. So take a look at what this school did. They put their downloadable guides right on their website. So you click here, you go to their website, you fill out the form, and then when you fill out the form, you're redirected to a page to download it, and then you're also delivered email marketing. They're an automated confirmation message, but then automation, an email a week. Maybe email number 2 is FAQ questions. Email number 3 is, hear from our past students, which are like alumni stories. Email number 4 is, hey, are you ready to come on campus for a tour? Email number 5 might be, application deadlines are coming up, right? So these are the things that we can do once we get them into our system. And these Um, again, lead magnets, downloadable guides are a great way to do that.
That's really slick.
Good questions. Let's see if there's anything else on the slide deck that I wanted to go over. Um,
While you're looking for that, I'm just going to make a pitch for you like I usually do. And I just want to do a disclaimer that I am not part of Clint's company. We use his software. I'm like you. Clint really is, he describes himself as a software provider. In reality, what he does is he has software. Software, can be gotten from a lot of places. What he really is a marketing agency and a software solution. And the idea of someone like Clint helping you, as I hope he's doing for you, Shannon, and all of you who are using Ames or really any service you choose, what you want is someone that helps you figure out how do I best communicate who I am and get people who engage with me engaged. And that's really what this is all about. How do we develop relationship? That service is marketing. And I really appreciate what I see you doing, Clint.
Tim, I appreciate that very much. And one of the things I wanted to pull up here as well while you had those kind words, which again I appreciate, is I had some survey data from a while ago. And again, everybody's survey data is going to be different. But when we looked at survey data across hundreds and hundreds of schools, what are the top 3 things that parents want? Number one, let's take a guess. Let's see if we can guess. If we had to survey hundreds of schools, parents, what are you looking for a school? What is the number one thing that they're looking for? Let's take some guesses.
Free tuition.
Free tuition is an option. Yeah. I would like 100% scholarship. Shannon said strong academics. So let me say, Shannon, that is number 2. Strong academics is number 2. By the way, academics, according to niche.com survey, was the number 1 reason why families leave a school and choose another school. So the reason they leave is because of academic issues. Parents engagement community. There's number 1. So number 1 was the community, a safe, caring community. Now, incorporated into that, we'll put some subtopics, which are, okay, what goes into a safe, caring community? Faculty care and concern, overall safety, caring atmosphere, individual attention. So you really can't go wrong building messaging framework around that. Shannon, you had said number 2, which was academic outcomes. So yes, strong academics. I think another way to think about that are what are the academic outcomes? Now, what goes into academic outcomes? What's tied into that? Faculty, again, quality faculty. Yes, then there's curriculum, the academic challenges, your AP programs, things like that. But just to look at number 1, safe care and community, faculty care, valued academic outcomes, quality faculty. And then number 3 is values, your mission and leadership, right? So what's your educational philosophy? That's number 3. Let me ask one more question. That's what parents want. What about what students want? Who wants to take a guess at some of the things that students are looking for? Which I understand some of you, especially if you're Montessori, marketing to families with significantly younger kids and toddlers. But I think as we all know, especially when it comes, as soon as you get into middle school, the student decision or the student influence exponentially increases, especially in high school. It pretty much all hinges on where the student wants to go. But well, who wants to take a guess in terms of what students are looking for?
Well, I have friends. The kids at the school creeps.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's lump that all. So, and Shannon, you had said belonging. Um, Tim said friends. And so we'll lump that into which is number one, which is atmosphere, culture, sense of community. That's number one. Number two is an interesting one. Let's see if we can get number two, and then I'll just go through them quickly. Ollie, you had said interesting electives. I'm gonna put that into that's number three, academic challenge and preparation. So let's put that into academics. Any other guesses? All right, I'll give you the answers to the test. So we said number one, atmosphere, culture, sense of community. Number two, freedom to be myself and to make choices. Right. Number three, academic challenge and preparation. Number four, student teacher relationship. So again, teacher relationships. Number five, individual attention to learning needs and stress levels. And number six, fairness and structure and predictability. So students are really looking for self-efficacy, where parents are looking for, what value am I getting for my tuition? What's the bang for the buck that I'm getting? Um, so with that being said, think about how you might want to put that into your messaging, right? Especially if you have a high school where students are on social media and you're creating content. If you know how important they're looking for sense of community, freedom to be myself, those are things you would want to show in your content. Shannon, thanks so much for hopping on. I know we're losing some folks as we get to the hour here. So, Tim, any final words on your end?
No, I think we've really covered. I mean, the bottom line is parents come to us with questions. They're trying to figure out if they want to get involved with you at all, and they're trying to check it out. And I think you've done a really nice job of talking about the parent journey, what that's like. And we've also done a lot to talk about how can we as a school try to clarify why parents come to us, what are their questions, how can we communicate those questions to them in such a way that they know, that they hear you, because there's so many people talking to them. Many times parents don't even remember. I mean, if you've ever looked for a new house, after you visited 5 houses and looked, you don't even remember anymore which one was that, unless there's one that really captured your heart. So what we're trying to do is capture their heart, and we can't be right for everyone. So what we're trying to do is be really good at reaching the people who are likely to love us, the intersection between what we're good at, what we're really about, and what the people that are approaching us are looking for, so that we can take that and make the most of those precious engagements.
And Tim, I just wanted to highlight, Although you had a great question about repeating the 3 most important things for parents. So number one was safe, caring community. So again, within that, faculty care, character development, safety, your atmosphere, individual attention. Number two, valued academic outcomes. So quality faculty, curriculum, your curriculum, academic challenges. And then number three is your mission and the leadership of the school and your values. So that whole section on your website that you have probably that has your mission, your values, your leadership team. That is important for families, for parents.
Well, this has been a great session. I'm really glad everyone came, and look forward to seeing you all next week.
All right. Well, I'm going to look up what our topic is for next week. But Tim, I wanted to highlight, because I know we've been talking. So if schools want help with developing that messaging, I know that's one of the things that your service that you put together, or is that a new service, or is that existing service in terms of helping schools with that developing that marketing messaging?
Well, the foundation's general school consultants for a long time, 32 years. What we've started doing, though, usually we've done this as part of ongoing relationship with a school. I mean, we've got schools that we work with year round, year after year after year. And then we have other schools that say, I have a specific thing I'm trying to accomplish. Can you help me for this one project? One of the things we're starting to do is help schools that are interested to develop a serious marketing plan and develop their unique selling proposition and portrait of the ideal family that they want to get, and come up with a real plan regarding the strategies of how to message, clarity about the steps they use in their school at each age level, because it may be different, nursery school versus high school. And of course, trying to make sure everyone is on the same page in terms of how do we communicate in every way, shape, or form, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or videos that are produced about your school or emails or the kind of thing you showed us from the Whitby School on screen a little bit ago. Great example of how to do that kind of thing. So what we're trying to do is help schools that want it to develop the entire plan. And then, they can take that to whatever marketing company they want. I happen to recommend you, Clint, because I think that what I see you doing is really equal to anything I've seen in the country. And you're much more affordable. And I just really appreciate that. So there you go.
Awesome. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. We approached the hour. Thanks for hopping on. And next week, I was just pulling up. We're going to talk about events that draw in your ideal families. So, what events are working well? I feel like that's such an interesting topic because every school kind of does their events a little bit differently, whether it's a traditional open house or an interactive open house, whatever it might be. So, yeah, that'll be a great conversation to talk with everybody. So, until then, see you all next. Have a great rest of the week. I'll see you all next week.
We'll see you.